talk to you since about 9:22 p.m. election night. Is this Republican Party? They go Ronald Reagan this, Ronald Reagan that. I know Brendan's going to talk about this in a bit. Are these Republicans anything like what they revere?
I seriously doubt it. We're going to have a worse stalemate, not progress. The Republicans who came in are heavily neocon, hawk, foreign interventionist oriented. They want to raise defense spending. They want to blow the sequester caps. That will create a tremendous conflict in the Congress. Nothing will get done. They're essentially in a fiscal coma. They might as well put out a do not disturb sign and get it over with.
I'm going to rip up the script right here because you go right to what I was talking about yesterday, which is the sequestration. Brief us now. 2016 is when we run into those limits.
Right. Well,
nobody wants that, right?
Well, they've passed year after year a 10-year cap, but when we get to the 2 years ahead, they then remove the cap and find some excuse to work around it. So these caps are meaningless. They keep counting the same savings. The idea that the budget is getting better is so wrong unless you think the business cycle has been repealed. If you don't think the business cycle has been repealed, that we might have a recession somewhere down the road, you get rid of Rosie's scenario, which is what the CBO uses.
No, Rosie's scenario plays shortstop for the Red Sox this year.
But you get rid of that, do a realistic forecast for the next 10 years, and you're talking about 10 to 15 trillion of built-in deficit, the realistic forward view, on top of the 18 trillion debt we already have. So nothing has been fixed. We're drifting towards the next
God, you're gloomy. Brendan, save us, please.
Everybody's budget scenarios have been using the same assumptions, that the savings will happen somewhere down the line, never next year, maybe in 5 years, probably in 10.
Exactly right, but even look at CBO. They say that the deficit starts to rise again in 2016, 2017, and that's with 3.5% real economic growth.
Right.
That's with full employment forever. That's with 5% wage growth that hasn't happened.
I want to jump forward. We're going to do this chart later. Here's a deficit to GDP chart with that surplus in the Clinton years. And we've come back nicely. Why are you so gloomy? Can't the president take a victory lap for narrowing the deficit rapidly?
No, we're in the 5th year. We've had 5 years of recovery. We're in the 6th year. We still have a $500 billion deficit.
Agreed.
3% of GDP.
Agreed.
And we're going to have another cycle in the next 10 years. We'll drop down below 5, 8, 10% the next time we have a big upset in the economy. You're supposed to get balance or a surplus during the top of the cycle.
Does Alan Greenspan agree with that statement? Brendan, I would say a surplus can be damaging for an economy. Can't we get near a zero bound?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. We should get near, we should get balanced unless we want to keep adding to the debt year after year after year, which I think we're in trouble. We've got an aging population. We've got an economy that is not growing, cannot grow more than 1 or 2% a year.
I want to bring in Paul Roberts, author of The Impulse Society. You're very critical of the short-termism that we see, not just in our culture, our consumer culture, but also in politics as well. Putting together a budget obviously requires us to look long-term, and that's not happening. But how much of that is because the two sides can't even agree on the assumptions that go into a budget?
Well, I mean, clearly, that's a big part of it right now. Sorry, Mr. Stockman, but we're going to have to spend quite a bit more in the next few years on things like infrastructure, on long-term research, if we're going to get that economic recovery, sustainable recovery that you're talking about. But in addition, we've got a financialization of the political sphere. We've got so much money in the political sphere that that donors are now considered investors, and investors want a return on their investment. And the fastest way, or one of the fastest ways, to get a return on a political investment is to go negative.
Well, as we go to break, Victor Wonder over here, please. This is David Stockman. Read this morning. David Stockman starts his morning with the New York Times, and it's the worst voter turnout in 72 years. Back to 1942. I mean, Paul Roberts, we're completely disassociated.
We're disengaged.
From our disengaged.
And it's in part because I think voters look and they see that the political sphere is acting like an arm of Wall Street. It's after short-term, quick returns. It's not interested in making long-term commitments. So why should a voter engage with that?
Why? You sound like David Stockman. Stop that.
I'm sitting right